Welcome to the One Level Beyond podcast. Here we cover the topics that veteran geeks like you care about. From Star Wars to D&D, The Dark Knight to Stan Lee, we have you covered with news and insights with that old school 80s perspective to the bone. I'm your host, Diamond Dave, here on the mic with my partner in crime.
Hey everyone, this is Manny, the comic maniac on the mic, and we are One Level Beyond.
Anyway, right?
Well, we try to talk through it, but yeah, OG Dave is original gangster, man. We have him here.
Well, I was thinking old guard, but that's how old I am.
No, actually, it's definitely a great thing. It's definitely it's a good day whenever you can have a Big Hector Origin PC Penton in the studio.
Oh boy. Oh,
the
boy.
big guy. The big guy's here.
And it's. I'm happy to be here. Thank you very much for the invite. I think it's really cool. I love what you guys are doing. This is really cool. Awesome. I gotta say.
No, we definitely thank your support.
But hey, we had to bring the original Star Wars fan to come talk about some of these Star Wars things that we have in our docket, buddy.
I'm just the oldest Star Wars fan that you know, but
the most insightful one.
Just the one that's been around the longest, absorbed the most. I was a Star Wars fan even after Return of the Jedi, when there was that huge gap of like no Star Wars, no nothing. I would still be like reading the few little books that would come out, Splinter of the Mind's Eye. Yeah. I mean, just there wasn't a lot. I mean, now there's a Star Wars book that comes since the 90s. There's a Star Wars book that comes out every month or something like that.
Yeah, no, for sure.
So people could just gobble it up. But before, it was pretty limited.
Yeah. You know, the three of us we're all
just like technology.
Fans. Yeah, the three of us are all comic fans. Hector, were you reading also the Star Wars comics when they first came out?
One of my first, I still remember this, at the one of my first graphic novels was a Star Wars graphic novel.
I remember
that my parents bought me and Manny at the youth fair back in the 70s. It was, and the original Marvel, they did
a large comic book. It was like a large book.
It was a graphic novel before they even called them graphic novels.
Yeah, but it was like a magazine size.
It was like magazine
typical
size.
Comic book size.
Yeah, it was magazine size. And what I remember the most about it was back then when Marvel got the license to Star Wars, the first 3 episodes, or first 6 issues was A New Hope, Star Wars A New Hope. Yep. And this particular graphic novel, magazine size, like Manny was saying, was 4, 5, and 6. Okay. And we wore that comic out.
We wore it out
for years.
I remember reading. I experienced The New Hope through that comic unlimited amount of times.
Yeah, because this was before VHS, right? So
it's before VHS.
So this is your only way to really relive a movie back then.
Remember, our uncle got a copy of the Betamax of Star Wars.
Oh, back when it first came out.
And we used to watch it on that big screen TV at his house. Yeah. I don't know how many times I saw it on that Betamax, Dave. I can't tell you.
I remember watching it at Concord movie.
Concord Park. Yeah, that's originally where we saw it.
They had 2 screens. Wow.
No, they expanded to 4. No, I don't know how many screens they ever had.
I saw Karate Kid there too, another famous movie.
Actually, I remember Red Dawn the most, watching it there.
Yes.
They're scared.
I saw Red Dawn also in a couple James Bond flicks.
Big King Patrick Swayze.
I saw movies there. I saw a bunch of movies there. That was the old days.
That's cool.
Conan the Destroyer.
That's good.
So yeah, I've been around Star Wars. Sometimes there's a debate among the old guys like myself. It's like, well, are you more of a Star Wars guy or a Star Trek guy? Because because before Star Wars was Star Trek.
Yeah.
And I would say a lot of you'd be surprised how many older people are Star Trek, because that was their Captain Kirk, William Shatner. That was the first time they got into that,
no doubt.
And then
the original space sci-fi, which really put it on the map.
Which for us, pop culture, right? Buck Rogers. You really want to go far back, but for me, I've always been more of a Star Wars guy. I love Star Trek, as you know, but Star Wars has always been my sci-fi fantasy.
He's the original Darth Vader fan. He's the first guy I ever met or knew that when in their first viewing of Star Wars, was more in love with the villain than he was with the actual heroes. He had foresight way ahead of everybody else as far as that the Darth Vader bandwagon. Man, he built that thing.
But he defined an era.
He did, man, because now everybody's a fan of him because he's cool.
The most famous villain,
He's the
probably
most
of all
famous
time.
villain. But he was into him, man. I'm telling you, from the first time we saw Star Wars, he was always into TIE fighters, stormtroopers, Darth Vader, where everybody else was like a Luke Skywalker fan, or they had liked Han Solo. Everybody was in love, had a crush on Princess
droids,
Leia.
everyone loves the droids.
droids are funny,
R2D2, C3PO. Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, man, bring me Vader, the stormtroopers. Can I get another shot of that TIE fighter pilot? I could only see his helmet. I wonder what the, that sort of stuff.
Even that drabby Tarkin.
Tarkin, man, that was
Grand Moff.
that was the man. Whereas what I always say was like, people say, no, Vader's really evil and this and that, and it's like, well, Vader was like corrupted by the dark side of the Force. Tarkin was just a son of a bitch, and he blew up a planet, and he killed billions. And there was like, you can't blame the Force for corrupting him. He just was. He was just hardcore.
He was diabolical, and you saw how cunning and crazy he was as far as in that Rogue One, exactly, the prequel, right? Like you get a good feel of him, and he's a cutthroat, Sith mentality, high-end officer.
He was a cutthroat, power grabber. He knew how to manipulate bureaucracy and stuff like that.
And Director Krennic totally manipulated him and stole the idea right from him. They stole and took all the credit for it. Look at my weapon.
That was there was one thing about Director Krennic. It was like you could, as much as he was fighting it, he was out of his league. And he was swimming against the current. He was like, he was trying to hang in there with Tarkin. He was trying to hang in there with Vader. And it was like, man, you're out of your league. And sure enough, the end happens, and that's what you get.
Hey, did you like Rogue One, Hector? That's one of my favorites.
Dave didn't say anything.
No. I loved Rogue One.
Dirty Dozen.
It was the Dirty Dozen in the Star Wars universe. But it really, what I really loved about Rogue One was, and what I like about, when you do Star Wars, you build on the universe, you add, and you try to keep the same look and feel. Yeah. That has already been established.
Keep back to the world building.
Yes, exactly. That, the big question: where did they get the Death Star plans? Why did really the Death Star? They were so dumb that they made that weakness. What I mean, that sort of question.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's why there's that weakness. So it really fills in a lot of gaps in a nice way without without overturning what has already been previously established in canon.
Previous canon, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's a big deal, and I thought they did a really, really good job of it.
That's kind of where I had help with, or at least hope with Disney. Like, oh man, Rogue One is so solid. I can only imagine what Solo is going to be, The Last Jedi is going to be, but oof.
We're batting 500 since Rogue One.
What are your thoughts about Solo, Hector? Now that you've seen it, we've seen it a couple times.
Yeah, I caught it twice, and that's usually a good sign. For me is, if I see a movie more than once in the theater, and then the next thing is, do I pick up the Blu-ray and digital download?
Right, that's commitment right there.
That's commitment, and Solo definitely
for anybody really.
Right, and Solo definitely falls into that bucket for me. I really enjoyed Solo because, going back to what we had just touched on, Rogue One, it had a lot of the feel of the original Star Wars trilogy, as far as just, this is an adventure. This is an adventure. There isn't anything really complicated. There are no Jedis. There's no lightsabers. There's no rebel
good versus evil.
That's an interesting point. This film had no Jedis and no even talk of them or any mention of them. I think at any point really.
No. There was no. talk.
Technically, you see a Sith Lord at the end, but that's
right.
That's
spoiler alert, right?
Whoops.
Darth
Maul was great.
Yeah. You're just all in now, huh? With the spoilers, huh?
For sure. That might be the money shot of the whole movie.
I think that was their attempt of doing like Darth Vader at the end of Rogue One. Almost. In a way of like this.
Well, come on, that was a very tamed appearance.
No, I know, but still, it was unveiling. It was sort of like an unveiling, and
it was a nice surprise because you remember, previous to that in film canon. I mean,
I think it was a little bit more redemption. From a bad decision of years ago that killed him off so.
If you followed the extended universe, which Disney says the Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels is canon. They say that's canon. Everything else, expanded universe, is gone, but that's canon. In Clone Wars and in Rebels, Darth Maul is there.
Yeah.
So Darth Maul is there. So they're already saying he was in different ways, and they're already saying he was alive. And they already show where his character arc ends. So
I'm glad they salvaged that character, because he became after Phantom Menace, man. I mean, he was like a really interesting villain that you never got enough of.
He was the younger generation's Boba Fett.
Yeah.
Hey, he's really cool. He's dead? What?
Right, but he had more setup than Boba Fett. Like Boba Fett, people,
he's worth a lot to me.
His figure was more prominent than him. His actual toy figure, was actually more prominent than him. I think it came out before, and people were like, "Who is this character?"
It came out before Empire Strikes Back.
That was the big thing with Boba Fett. But I mean, he had very little exposure, and they finally gave him a couple lines in Return of the Jedi, and
no, they didn't say anything in Return of the Jedi.
He didn't say anything in Return of the Jedi?
He's just in the background.
He's just in the background.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
He didn't say anything.
And he just gets
the only words. He's only said, I think, Boba Fett's entire script is. He goes when Vader tells him no disintegrations, and he goes, understood or something like that. Then he goes, he's worth a lot to me. Put Captain Solo on the cargo hold.
Yeah.
And I think that's it.
Right. But remember, he was always in the point of the story. He was just always a little plot device side guy. He's not a main character, in that main story. Unlike Darth Maul, he was a major antagonist piece in the film, and
I love
No, you're right. You're right. Maul was obviously a more important character, and you could make the argument. I mean, we're getting off into a rabbit hole, but you could go make the argument that instead of a Count Dooku, it should have been a Darth Maul the whole way.
Yeah,
and then you don't mess around with a Count Dooku.
Give him big boy pants.
Yeah, no, it could have easily been Maul all the way through.
But Maul was pretty fearsome. Okay, first of all, Phantom Menace, not a great movie in the overall, right, cinematically, and you can knock a bunch of holes in the plot, but it does have the best lightsaber duel to date.
Well, it's set the standard. On screen. It set the standard for what the lightsaber duels are going to be from then on.
And can be, because we're talking about double-bladed lightsaber. Nobody had ever seen that before. And then he battles two dudes. It was epic.
Yeah. Very cool. No, it definitely set the standard.
You could get up another notch with General Grievous, now with his multiple sabers and arms.
Oh, yeah, that was cool.
He had potential, too. Grievous had a lot of potential.
But the thing about Grievous
he's cool in the Clone Wars.
Yeah, but he was
fierce in Clone Wars.
But one me tell you, the difference in the lightsaber duel between Grievous and Maul is that Grievous was CGI. Whereas Maul is a real guy running around doing his stunts. Yeah. So, and you sort of get that feel more like when Parks is running around doing his little flips, his jumps and stuff like that. That's like
martial arts. Yeah,
exactly.
I know.
Where Grievous is like, it's CGI.
Yeah, CGI.
It's like, of course, he could do whatever you want. He's CGI.
Yeah. Off that one film, Park got a little Hollywood career, right? I mean,
well, he did X-Men after that.
Yeah, he did X-Men, but all the stunt stuff,
Yeah, well,
that's his thing. That's why
more power to him.
Yeah, more power to him. He was good. He was good for what he did there. I mean, just they cut him in half.
But though, talking about villains and going back to Solo, I thought that I kind of had a little bit more, I guess, aspirations, or I had pictured Enfys Nest as a different character than the girl when she takes off her helmet. I was like, oh wow, this.
When she takes off her helmet, I'm going, oh, I thought she was about to say father, to him because of his previous girlfriend.
Yeah,
who had done. I'm like, oh,
that would have been a good.
Maybe they had something there, but no, I go, that would have been too much. But they didn't do that. I think what was cool about when they did that thing with the girl, it doesn't really matter, a girl or a guy, but the whole reveal that they were good guys. Well, it made it interesting because when I saw the movie the second time and they're fighting around the train, you could see that they were being non-lethal. when they were attempting to take the train. Yes, if you look at it, they were being non-lethal. The only person who got hurt was the pilot, and that's because he unloaded 2 blasters at the person who was boarding, and that person shot him.
Yeah.
But outside of that, when her character's fighting Woody Harrelson on top of the train, she uses non-lethal force.
Tobias Beckett.
Yes. Right. Which is interesting.
Yeah.
You see it the second time, you're like, okay, I know these aren't bad guys.
Yeah.
So let me see how they're doing it. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. They really weren't acting.
They were pulling punches.
They were holding their punches.
At the end of the day, the Marauders. This is the initial formation of the rebels, right? Of the resistance.
Yeah, 60 million credits, worth of hyperfuel, and that's going to fund or spark the rebellion. I thought that was like, whatever, but that was cool. I guess that was a way of sort of showing, hey, the Solo has had
some impact,
previous connections with the rebellion, and he had always said, no, I really don't want to be part of it.
Yeah, because throughout the whole movie, I mean, he's pretty convinced I'm not a good guy, right? I'm not a good guy.
I'm an outlaw.
But
yeah, no, he's a good guy. That to me, that was one of the things that I enjoyed. And again, I know we're sort of just jumping around as far as the movie, but one of the things I did enjoy was at near the end when he was like, well, no, man, when he's talking to his girl, and he's like, no, I'm an outlaw. I'm a bad guy. And she's like, no, you're not. You're a good guy.
You're a good guy.
And she said that because she obviously has done something bad that has got her tied in up to her neck with Crimson Dawn. And 2, because she just knows him. And that's just not his. He dreams of being a hardcore, outlaw, but that's really not in his nature. And that goes on to explain, and Manny and I have talked about it before, why he was such an unsuccessful outlaw. He's always broke. He's always not making it. And the reason is because when it comes to the decision of, do I keep a bunch of money and have these people get screwed over, or do I drop the load of drugs, of spice, that I was hauling for Jabba or something like that. And he'll always make the decision to do something that's quote unquote right for someone else. 60 million credits, and he doesn't ask for give me at least 1 million of it. Yeah. No, they gave him like 10,000, like a passing thing. I'm like, what? Really? I would have gunned her down right there if she had just offered me 10,000.
Shooting first.
Yeah. Hey, so what you guys think about the new generation of Lando and Han Solo? I think this guy Donald Glover did a great job as Lando. There were some times where I was like, oh my god,
I liked him more as
Billy D.
Yes.
There was some there were 3 or 4 times I was like, man.
No, there was a couple of times I looked over and I go, did they give Billy D the voiceover or something? And I thought he did an awesome job. I think he probably did better Lando than what was the young Solo again? I forget the Alden, right?
Alden. Iron Rick.
We'll just call him Alden or Al.
Let's call him Al.
We'll call him Al.
How did Al do?
No, I think he did fine. He didn't, but I thought Donald was a much better Billy D. Think about what I just said. A Billy D, not a Lando. I mean, there were certain words, certain inflections that he did that I thought were like spot on. And I thought he did a really good job with it. They both did good. I just think he portrayed a better young Lando.
Yeah. Do you like? One thing that I liked about the movie, watching it the second time, was Chewbacca finally got a lot of airtime.
Finally, yeah.
A good, decent origin story with Chewbacca and how he even showed some faithfulness or loyalty to Han when he could have gone with the other Wookiee slaves. Again, we're jumping around a little bit, and he kind of sticks with his boy Han Solo. He's like, "Nah, man, I'm riding you all the way till these wheels fall off."
Yeah,
that was funny.
In the original extended universe, it was like, Chewbacca was with him because he owed Han a life debt
or something.
Something like that. I guess that they didn't really call it that way, but it made it seem like he's more hanging with Han voluntarily.
They didn't really establish it, yeah.
Yeah, no, they didn't really touch on it, which is fine. They could change
There's
it.
There's time,
whatever.
I guess.
Though there is one thing that kind of had me thinking. I don't know if I really. Agree with this, but are we to believe that the Wookiee that Chewbacca was actually eating human prisoners?
Yes.
That's oh boy, that's kind of extreme.
I mean, he's yeah.
Wow.
Come on, one of the.
I know he's mad. I know he's pissed.
He was eating little birds on that island in Last Jedi. The porgs, the pogs,
The Rians,
porks. He was eating them. And what's funny was he was like, he suddenly gets second thoughts. You killed it, you plucked it, you roasted it, and now you're getting second thoughts about eating it. Come on,
You should just eat it.
And I was like, dude, just
Chewie had some great action moments, much like Rogue One, because now they can actually now flex, special effects muscles now with current cinematography, right? That they
he looked great. He looked great
30 years ago and stuff.
Yeah, he looked extra hairy and matted. Actually, it was good. Looked really.
Yeah, no, he had
he looked great in action, like when he was slamming those dudes around. I mean, he looked very powerful.
What is the name of the new Chewbacca? That is another. I mean, everyone talks about this guy taking over as Solo. This guy, I know this guy's taking over for Peter Matthews.
Yeah,
I know he's a college basketball player, like a 7-foot guy.
Wow! I didn't expect.
But they chose a big athletic guy,
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, I didn't expect him to be a horse jockey.
Junis, horse jockey, not that guy. Suatamo. I don't know.
Suatamo.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't pronounce
so that guy's the new Chewbacca, I believe. He's Chewbacca in all of them, right?
Yeah.
Was he Chewbacca in Last Jedi also?
That's a good question.
I think he was. I'm not sure actually.
That's a good question. We're gonna find out in a few seconds once we.
Hey, so Hector, let me ask you, what are like some of the highest points of the movie for you that you were just like, man, I do feel like that kid again. Going to Concord, checking out the movie.
I mean the train robbery, right? I mean, you're talking about that was it was sci-fi-ish, but it was light adventure. It was a bit of Firefly.
Yeah,
bit of Firefly.
Joss Whedon,
robbing the train. That's Firefly was doing that, years ago. But so it was like a straightforward, thing. So the Kessel Run. Obviously, the whole thing. Now, I heard some people say, well, I didn't find it that interesting in the Kessel Run because,
that's Manny right there. Manny's one of those voices.
Because it's like, they're going to survive, right? I mean, it's like, there's not a question of like what's going to happen. So how much tension is there really? And that's true. But it's not about will they survive. It's just watching the adventure unfold.
Yeah.
No, I liked it. I just thought it could have had more pizzazz. Like a little flair to me.
A big, humongous creature. Is that enough pizzazz for you?
A space kraken wasn't
space kraken to the max.
Yeah, wasn't.
I look, to give you an example. The simple car chase in the beginning had more flair to me, man. Not the car chase, but when he's in the beginning on the planet,
the speeder chase, the speeder
chase in the cities, man. That was a cool.
I don't agree with that statement, Manny, but okay, it's fine.
I thought it was cooler than him flying through, doing all that stunt driving. I don't know. That was me.
Well, I did like the TIE fighters in the Star Destroyer coming through those clouds, looking all menacing. That was cool.
Yeah,
that was super cool.
Yeah,
and they introduced a new. Of course, my dorkiness is that they introduced a new TIE fighter, the TIE Brute, which was a TIE fighter that has less speed, extra armor, and it's droid-assisted firing.
Oh wow!
Weapon system. Not that I spend my time reading up useless information or anything, but yeah.
A TIE Brute? Really? Is that for real?
It's called the TIE Brute. Yeah, it's called the TIE Brute. Yeah.
It's the first time.
If you look at it, there's one of the TIE fighters, there's two different designs. The standard TIE, and then there's this other TIE that seems like it's a little bit longer.
Yeah.
And that's the TIE Brute.
Oh,
so whenever you're bored and you're looking at the Blu-ray, you want to stop and look.
What would you rather fly?
A TIE Interceptor, if you had a choice.
If you had a choice, of course.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? Hey, for all these years, Hector, I'll definitely, I'll call one thing out that I've always thought was really cool was that you're so into World War II, all the whole
historical period.
The whole historical, everything had to do with like the fighters, even the tanks, the Panzer. I thought that was always so cool. So it would make sense that you would call out details like that on.
Because I always enjoyed military history, and that's where you remember the whole thing with the dog fights, the way it is. That's all George Lucas's thoughts of taking World War II dogfights. I mean, think about it. I mean, when people start saying, "Well, that's not realistic in a Star Wars movie," it's like, dude, there's no sound in space. There's a bunch of rules that get broken, but that's just part of the universe.
So talking about dogfights, that means you must have had a heart attack when you saw Dunkirk.
Oh, no, that was probably one of the best movies I saw last year.
No, supposedly they made the aircrafts and everything. I mean, legit.
No, those were real. Yeah,
Wait a second here. Better than Last Jedi? That can't be possible. Last Jedi is Star Wars, for crying out loud.
2017, I think from my favorite movies of 2017, 2049.
Yes.
I don't need to tell you what movie that was.
Come on. That's
Dunkirk was a great movie.
Christopher Nolan.
Thor Ragnarok?
I didn't see that one until about a month ago, but I enjoyed it a lot.
How would it compare to some of the other movies?
Logan came out in 2017. I thought Logan was fantastic.
Yeah, man, Logan was pretty good.
Logan was a really good movie. In our
visceral.
Covenant was Alien Covenant was that's another sci-fi universe I enjoy.
But you know what's funny? Aliens.
They're
I have a hard time just making the conscious decision, sitting down and watching any of those damn films, man. They just
Prometheus had promise, especially with the engineers. But
Prometheus
I thought they were going to take it to the next level with Covenant, and
Prometheus was the first alien movie that I wasn't scared of going in. I just have a natural scare and phobia of those alien films. I think they stopped being
horror movies a while back. I think it's just more.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. Really, the horror one was the first one, right? That was that was the first one.
The second one was bad too, man. Armies of those things coming at you.
Yeah, but the whole
one is
theme,
bad enough.
Yeah, but the theme was. But at that point, it was a military sci-fi, but it was still very scary.
Yeah, pretty horrifying.
Definitely.
It was very horrifying and stuff like that, but. Anyway, so Solo. That's what we're here for, right? I think, right?
Yeah. Sorry.
Solo. So we're talking about performances. And by the way, I want to confirm Chewbacca was played by the same basketball player, Junis, in Last Jedi.
Who needs the NBA?
Yeah, I know. Peter Matthews, sort of handed off the baton or handed off the bowcaster. Because he really physically couldn't do it anymore. He's just, he's
got to be how old by now?
He's older. He's had problems with his, I think his knees or stuff like that. So it's just difficult. Interesting is, the guy's been living in Texas for a long, long time, and he's an Englishman.
Yes, I knew that for a while.
Which I always found to be very interesting.
Hey, let me ask you guys a question. Crimson Dawn, where is that from? Is that from the books or is that from the animated series? I've heard of them. Where is the origin of Crimson Dawn?
I think it's been mentioned in Clone Wars and in Star Wars Rebels.
Okay,
but I'm not sure really what other extended universe product it's come out in. Because Disney has said that the extended universe doesn't exist, is not canon, but that doesn't mean they won't use something from it. Right?
They're going to cherry pick.
Yeah, they'll cherry pick. Yeah. They did that with Admiral Thrawn.
I love Admiral Thrawn.
Yeah, Admiral Thrawn was was one of the first trilogy of books that come out in the 90s.
Yeah, Heir to the Empire. Amazing.
Great series of books. And then, with this new universe, they were like, oh, what are they going to do with Thrawn? And they brought him in Star Wars Rebels, and I thought they did a good job with it.
Yeah. There's probably a couple episodes. I didn't get all the episodes with Thrawn, but let me ask you: Did he carry over with Thrawn the actual what salamanders or whatever that kind of neutralized the Force?
No. They didn't touch on that at all.
I thought that was actually kind of
at all. Yeah, I know, but no, they didn't do that at all.
Just for public record, I'm looking at Star Wars Wiki. And they're saying that Crimson Dawn is actually a new idea just from the Solo film. There has no other...
No way.
Oh, really? Well,
I could have sworn I've heard Crimson Dawn before.
It doesn't have any other...
I would have lost that bet.
There was a villain in Shadows of the Empire, a book...
Oh, wait, no, scratch that. No, there is a book that's been mentioned.
There you go, Hector. Just called it. Bam.
No, I might not...
It's Choose Your Destiny, a Han and Chewie adventure.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Cool. It's good to know that they pulled actually from...
First mention. Okay, well, yeah.
Cool.
They did that.
And first appearance in Solo Star Wars story. So it's only mentioned in that. So yeah, either way, it's I guess it's something that was older and they just kind of decided to use it as a key story element in this film. This film had a $300 million budget, which is kind of high for this kind of project.
Well, when you have to fire your directors and hire high-end directors and reshoot tons. Basically, you shot the movie twice.
From what I read, I've read that they shot the movie twice. Literally, the first director had one already. Pretty much. Had a lot of it already filmed.
The Lego guys, the Lego directors. I wonder how that would have been. I think it was too comedic or something.
And then Ron Howard came in there and they went in a different creative direction. They wrote a whole new script.
Hey, I'm surprised that this thing is kind of balmy the way they say it is. It's I thought it's a very, very solid film. I liked it a lot, actually.
That's one of the things that confused the hell out of me is that everyone I've spoken to says, even if they really don't love it, they say, yeah, it was fun, or it was cool, or you don't see negative things. It's like popcorn, right? It's the movie's not really deep. It's a light, fair adventure, but no one said, "Oh, I was totally bored out of my mind" or anything. If you're a Star Wars fan, you'll have a lot to appreciate, and you sort of see the adventure in the universe. So yeah, I sort of scratch my head in regards to why it's done so poorly. I have a couple thoughts on it, but
rumors are that The Last Jedi has been a major issue.
No, that's Kathleen Kennedy and
right, issues with Kathleen Kennedy. Yeah,
people are still bitter with Rian Johnson.
Well, I think like most things in life, it's usually more than just one thing. I think Last Jedi definitely left a little bit of a sour taste in some people's in a lot of fans. Palette. So they were unhappy about that. Secondly, the negative vibe or negative news, like what we were just talking about right now. Oh my God, they went through directors. Oh my God, they had to reshoot. That's like negative PR. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So people start saying in their mind, it's going to suck. I don't want to spend any time with it.
Because that does happen. When you have two creative people, two creative visions trying to shape a story, you're going to get some issues, I mean, look at Justice League. Justice League didn't do very well with this guy having to take over and from Zack Snyder.
Not to get into a rabbit hole, but Hector, your fine palate, how did it take The Last Jedi? Did you throw up? Did you, was it the best thing you've ever tasted?
I thought we only had like 1 hour. So here's my take on here's my real quick take on The Last Jedi.
4-hour special.
Okay, real quick take. I saw it twice in the theater. I didn't dislike it as much the second time, but it had a lot of things that I just didn't like. I thought poor writing, poor plot holes, some stuff that sort of just doesn't make sense. Characters that were like, "Why are you here?"
Yeah. What about the end sequence? Were you fulfilled with that end sequence? Or
which one?
Luke versus Kylo.
No, not really. I really wasn't at that point. I had already,
especially the second viewing. You're like, this is all.
This is the second. It was. Yeah, no.
I tried hard to like it.
And one of the things that I think that's really brought home to me is one of the things I didn't like about The Last Jedi was the humor. Last Jedi had very jarring humor.
Yeah.
That to me, you don't realize it when you're watching it, but then when you sort of sit back and analyze it, it's like, yeah, man, the humor detracted from the tension. So, very beginning, they're evacuating the resistance base. Oh my God. And then Star Destroyers start coming out of hyperspace in orbit. They're like, oh my God, they found us. Yeah. They're making a run for it. And then you have Poe going, yeah, hi, I'm holding for General Hux.
Yeah.
I'm holding for General Hugs. Yeah, hi, I have a message from General Leia. Something about your mom.
Yeah.
And when I heard that, I was like, what? I go, that's not that
totally kills you. That investment in emotion.
Well, not just that, but that line of humor. I was like, hey, that's something from Earth, right? That's something, making a joke about your mom and stuff like that. That's not Star Wars.
That's not thousands of years into the future.
That or thousands of years in the past. Whatever.
Not a good improvisation. I get that too.
Yeah, and they did a lot of that. And some of it you don't notice it. There was a interesting scene that I saw on YouTube, which was a film critic was making a point about that same subject because I discovered it. It was like, you see the scene where Rey is brought before, what's his name? I call him Snooky now.
Snoke.
Because there was nothing with him, right?
Yeah.
With Snoke, and the music is building. It's really ominous. He's springs her using the Force, and he puts his hand on the side of her face, and it's like really dark, and then it cuts to a scene of BB-8 inside a box and slamming into a wall.
Trying to take a corner.
Right, trying to take a corner, they slammed into the wall. They did that right after, and I was like, oh my God. It was that one there. And I was like, wow, those are the things that you don't notice at first. But then when you really look at it and analyze it, you're like, wow, this takes the wind out of the sails of, because, either go Thor Ragnarok and be, lighthearted and comedy, or don't. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or be dark and brooding. And even Empire, which was like a dark film, had moments of humor.
Yeah.
And there's ways of
but it's
doing
done
it.
very, very well. Actually, that same video was from those guys from the Closer Look. That was very good analysis.
Yeah, I don't like watching guys who just rant and bash. I like
this was more insightful. He's comparing to Private Ryan.
How to use humor in a serious moment.
Very educational.
And I thought that Last Jedi just didn't do a good job of that, and that really was. Just takes away the whole tension.
It does.
I think what to add to your point, what's going on is like Star Wars already has a previous set of like inserted humor rules, established rules for canon for how the universe plays out. The Last Jedi kind of break those rules and try to be funny in different places, and it doesn't work as well. Yeah, because it's interesting because I didn't really recognize that. I just knew there was a lot of humor, and I thought one of the things that have discussed before, Dave, is how General Hux loses all his,
credibility and menacing. I thought he was the next, baby Moff Tarkin, and look, he's just
exactly. He's a buffoon.
He was a running joke the whole film.
In Last Jedi, they purposely went, or should I say, Reynolds, right, went out of his way to go against any established anything that was established. Going about the humor, right? Because in the effort to make a joke, right, he basically undermined the entire end of The Force Awakens.
Yeah.
Force Awakens ends with this really music building, this powerful scene. Rey finds, Luke and is handing him the lightsaber. And that's how the movie ends. Oh my goodness, look at this, powerful scene. Yeah. And guess what? We find out that he just takes it and tosses it over his shoulder. What? Yeah. Really? Your father's lightsaber? Really? No, you haven't seen it you have not seen it since you lost your hand in Cloud City. Okay? You have not seen that lightsaber since then. Think about that for a moment.
Yeah.
And you just toss it over your shoulder. Really? Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's not the Luke. That's not the Luke we knew. Is what it is. That's Rian Johnson's Luke version of Luke.
Yeah, no.
An old bitter man.
Yeah, he wanted some old bitter
hope.
guy.
How is the New Hope now? Just old and bitter.
I just didn't totally buy into the motive as to why he became so disgruntled.
Well, they didn't give enough reason.
It's the whole thing with Kylo, but I mean.
No, don't even get me started with the thing with Kylo, because that Luke Skywalker's character at the end of Return of the Jedi is a full Jedi who is basically full of hope. During the entire movie of Return of the Jedi, everybody is telling him about how Vader is totally unredeemable. Leia tells him that. Ben tells him that. Yeah. Yoda tells him that. I mean, these are people who are like, you would think they would know, right? They would know something. Yeah. They would know something about the subject. And he was like, no. My dad, he still has good in him. And at the end of Jedi, he throws down his lightsaber and says, you know what? I'd rather die right now, than kill my dad. Right? And if
in anger.
Yeah.
And turn.
And turn. So he makes that statement, and at the end, he was right. You were right. Tell your sister you were right. Yes, he was right. So this guy already saw the second most evil person in the galaxy. He did not lose hope on him. All right. But yet 30 years later, or 25 years later, 20 years later, before it happened, he's ready to kill his teenage nephew in his bed. Okay. He's ready to murder his nephew in his bed because, he's a lost cause.
Yeah.
Dude, the guy's not even 18 yet. You're going to murder him in his bed?
Oh,
Give me a break. What's going on here?
Hey, he just broke the movie right there.
No, Hector, you got me fired up again.
No, man.
Oh my gosh, what a movie.
Hey, he just broke the movie, man.
No, totally. No,
Here I am, always hard on that second act. Is the point that always breaks me? The whole space chase and
that's one of the technical details, right? That is absurd in its own way. But no, Hector just broke it down.
Major plot hole too, bro.
It's
how do you get to hinge the whole second act and the whole motive for these people going to the
it just didn't make sense. That's like any one of us could come up with something a little bit more creative. I believe.
It didn't make sense because we don't have enough information. That's the thing. Right? Maybe something did happen in those 20 years, right? I mean, things happen to everybody in those 20 years. But the thing is, if you don't explain it to your audience, and then the last time they saw your character was in 1983, and he was like doing really good with himself,
you better do a good job explaining.
You better do a good job explaining why the guy's down and out.
Yeah.
And they didn't really do that.
And I get it. You want to bring the character down, but man. They could have done a much better epic redemptive moment at the end, and they copped out with that too, because that's all Johnson wanted to do. He just wanted to cop out at every opportunity to give you some shock, and it fails because it's just too much.
Well, you know what I just read recently, I was in shock. I thought J.J. Abrams and Disney or Kathleen Kennedy, they had this next 3 movies like pretty much laid out.
No. All they had was Abrams created the characters. He put some ideas of where the characters should go after the first movie. But when Johnson took over, it's been spoken that he basically took everything that was already sort of like, hey, these were the ideas of what's going to happen, and threw them all out the window.
Goodness.
Threw them all out the window. Just threw them all out the window. And he's like, I'm going to do this on my own. So
he couldn't do that with Kevin Feige. Over his shoulder.
But that's why Marvel is so successsul, right?
Yeah.
That's why there's no. They say there's Star Wars.
Hey, they have that person. It's called Kennedy. She's in charge of that.
Yeah.
She's not doing a good job, obviously.
Well, I mean, she fired the directors from Solo because she felt like they weren't doing a good job, which maybe they weren't. Probably, who knows, right?
Yeah.
So, how did that get? Now, how did this guy do this movie? And then also, they already gave him the green light to do the next trilogy after this.
Yeah. She's.
It's like, whoa, okay. It's like whatever. I mean,
Does he have pictures? Does he have pictures of her or something? Like, what is that?
Well, no, the whole internet's on fire about Kathleen Kennedy. Call her overpriced secretary, feminazi, all kinds of stuff. It might be a little much, but at the end of the day, there's no Kevin Feige kind of like overlord making sure to put people in check. She's put in check.
I disagree. I think she is there putting people in check. She approved it. She was okay with what the guy was doing,
it's her decision.
It's her decision. So that's it. I mean, so people could blame Johnson, and because of his decision, but she at the end approved all that stuff.
Yeah.
So she's got to live with it. So hey, sometimes you do well, sometimes you don't. But going back to Solo, which
that's right.
Which is the reason why we're here. Going back to my original point, which was like about an hour ago, I wasn't happy with Last Jedi, but I was tolerating it. When I walked out of Solo the first time, I suddenly said, wow, Last Jedi really sucked. You know what I mean? Because I was like, not to take away from Last Jedi or anything. There's people who like it, and more power to you. But it was like, I went to Solo and I was like, this is Star Wars. This is what I remember.
This is Star Wars, and it's a fun story. That
not perfect, but it was still fun.
Far from perfect.
It had the Star Wars stamp on it.
It had the Star Wars feel. Yep. And I was like, wow, this is Star Wars.
Well, the sets were great. Like, they did a good job of putting you and immersing you in the Star Wars universe. Real gritty and, all the technology. It was really cool. Very, very consistent.
Force Awakens felt like Star Wars. Some people knocked it. Oh, it's too much like A New Hope. Well, you know what? It was the first movie they had been doing in a while. Yeah. They weren't going to risk anything. Yeah. So they played it safe. Yeah. That's fine. Yeah. Whatever.
Find your stride.
But it had the feel of Star Wars. You could not argue that. It had the feel of Star Wars. You could argue this or that, but it had the feel of Star Wars. Solo had that. And that just highlighted to me how Jedi was so different from them. I would argue Jedi is different from all the previous existing Star Wars movies. You can knock the prequels all you want, but it was Star Wars.
Yeah.
It was Star Wars. It was the Star Wars universe. It was the same sort of Star Wars feel that some of the characters were annoying, that some of the actors were not that great, that some of the story writing wasn't that awesome, and some of the sets were too CGI. Yeah, you can make that argument, but it was still Star Wars.
I think The Last Jedi made me like The Phantom Menace more. Actually,
Yes.
I think I miss Jar Jar now.
Yeah, I mean, maybe Jar Jar's not that bad.
Hey, Jar Jar, you know what? You're
It's
okay.
that Last Jedi is just more egregious, man. It's
so
more
many,
combative,
but so many people liked it, and but you know what? That sort of like reminds me of the people who liked Iron Man 3. I despised Iron Man 3.
Oh, yes.
I've had to
I'm
think
with you
about
on
this
that.
before,
They so
and-
disrespected the Mandarin in that movie.
Oh my God! It was,
When he handled it.
but only because only if you're a comic book fan would you react that way. Someone who is not a comic book fan sees Iron Man 3 and says, "Hey, that was a pretty good movie."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Yeah, it was," until you totally sucked on this whole character.
Yeah, Dave and I
I thought it was
spoke about
good
that
for
before.
I was like, oh my gosh, you got a great guy, Ben Kingsley. I was like, wow, they got a great Mandarin.
Yeah, they casted
Let's
a
do this.
great
No, in the
experienced
initial
actor.
trailers, you're like, wow, this is cool. He's an actor. Yeah,
You seen the short video that they put out to recover from
Yeah, they try to
that, right?
recover from it. Yeah, I give Marvel.
I haven't
kudos
seen
on
it.
that
I heard about it, but
Yeah. But
No,
still,
it's very funny. Well done, And he's kind of in charge of what is it, an insane asylum, I guess, wherever he's at. They have
Something
him
like
in
that,
prison.
yeah.
Yeah, he's
I
all of a
remember.
sudden you can see he's a gangster guy there. But yeah, we have talked about this before, Dave. We talked about how Marvel and how people view Marvel and how people are viewing Star Wars. There's actually a difference, because there's technically humor in a lot of these Marvel films, but they seem to balance it better, and it doesn't seem to be so disruptive. But it seems like the Star Wars fan is just much more sensitive, right? So if you go off canon too much, like they immediately just get all up in arms and defensive and whatnot.
well, you know what? I think it's one of these things where it's like the Star Wars is kind of more operatic, where you kind of want to invest some emotions into it. I mean, look, Marvel, it's just absurd. They're heroes. It's over the top. So you are going to have those moments of like maybe your eyes may get misty, but it's going to be a fun movie. Where Star Wars, hey, my eyes were. I think I was bawling as a kid when Solo, got carbonite all up on his ass. But it's just a different game between those two properties. They're just two different properties, and them saying that there's Star Wars fatigue. I don't know. Maybe.
Well, I mean, it was only that was one of my other things. I said, Last Jedi left a bad taste. There was negative press on this movie.
That's interesting.
It was only 6 months from one Star Wars movie to the next. That's a very short amount of time.
Yeah. But it wouldn't affect Marvel. Marvel, between Black Panther and Infinity War, it's less than 6 months. Boom.
True, but that's Marvel's
Like a
already an
different-
established juggernaut,
yes,
right?
yeah.
I mean, they've been doing this
Yeah,
for
they got
what,
their
10
stride.
years now?
They've been hitting their stride
They've
already.
been doing it for 10 years.
The last 4 years have been really pretty good.
Yeah. They
Yeah,
have.
so it's like now you go to Marvel, it's like there's no question. Everyone's already going with a positive mindset. We know that whoever's doing this is going to be good.
Level of
and
quality.
we're going to
There's
enjoy
no-
it.
there's no doubt.
There
Like
might
the early
become
days of
argument
Pixar.
like, oh, there's too much comedy or this and that, but it's still going to be an enjoyable movie.
Yeah, totally.
Totally. And it's going to stick to the universe, and there's like one thread that's tying it all together, which
Well, Solo goes back to that though. That they don't. It's not overly funny. I think it's pretty, pretty
it's
level.
not overly funny. They have the types of jokes, the type of humor is
more associated with the previous.
Is more associated. There's a scene where they do a take on Leia and Han at in Carbon Freezing, where Leia goes, "I love you," and he goes, "I know." They replay that in this movie where Lando looks at him and goes, "I hate you," and he's like, "I know." It was like so. They're that sort of light humor is what they did.
Totally fit Star Wars.
Chewbacca rips the arms off a guy.
Yeah.
Right? So he finally does what they've sort of always said Wookiees will do. He ripped it. And then, Solo looks up and goes, well, that uniform looked like it would have fit me, but okay, whatever. We'll get through this. So little things like that is light humor in certain instances is what works great. Not what we saw in Last Jedi, which was just a different style.
Yeah, it's over the top, but yet Solo though I think is much better.
No, definitely. And I walked out of there, like I said, like a Saturday afternoon movie. It was good. Maybe not that deep of a movie. But
No,
hey,
it wasn't.
you know.
It wasn't. And maybe it doesn't age as well because it's so light. I don't know, but I found it entertaining.
I don't know how people don't like it. I enjoy it.
I see myself that if I was in the future, I'm flipping through the cable channels and that's playing on sci-fi.
Yeah.
I would stop to watch.
Oh, there's a lot of great stuff. There's a lot of great scenes, man. Between the initial speeder chase in the beginning when he's getting away, to the first heist he jumps onto and the whole train bit. There's a lot of cool moments, man. The Kessel Run later, and then some of the other stuff that occurs after, some of the fights after.
Well, the Falcon.
It's a pretty busy film, man. It's very fun.
Well, it's man. Well, if you want to talk about, it shows Han's dice. It shows how Han, was already a flyer. How he meets Chewbacca. How he meets Lando.
It hits all the points it has to hit.
The Kessel Run. All those things that that we already sort of knew of his character.
His name origin.
His name origin.
Yeah, really cool.
His name origin, which was an interesting way they did it. I thought it was funny.
The blaster.
His blaster. His DL-44.
Yeah, that was super cool.
That was cool. So they got the main points, and my understanding is they've got him. They've got the actor signed on for 2 more movies.
Yes, I heard. Yeah, but who knows after this?
Well,
the box office
defeat at the box office. Yeah,
well, and that's disappointing because Last Jedi, which I didn't like, did well in the box office.
Yeah.
So we're gonna get more of that, and then Solo, which I enjoyed, and it didn't do good. I'm gonna get less of that.
Yeah.
Go figure, right?
Yeah. So
hopefully the Blu-rays sales help it some.
Yeah, definitely. So you know what? Listen, on that note, Hector, it's been amazing to have you here with us today in the studio.
What, you want me out of here already?
No. We can keep on going. I want to do Last Jedi, but before we go, I want to ask you. So, what are your top 3? What are Hector's top 3 Star Wars movie?
Top 3.
I'll tell you what mine is. Not to create bias, but obviously, Empire Strikes Back and Rogue One are kind of. I would say Empire Strikes Back right behind Rogue One. Did Star Wars: A New Hope? My top 3.
Those are my top 3 also. Those are my top 3 all.
What order?
What you have to go with A New Hope because without A New Hope there is nothing else.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
after that it's Empire. And then for me after that it would probably be I really enjoyed Rogue One. Probably Rogue One just because it was the coolest one to
modern
one I thought.
And it edges out Return, you think?
Return has the advantage is that it closes off a trilogy, right? So I mean, whereas Rogue One is like
moments.
It does have its moments, despite the Ewoks. But I don't know. I would probably say Rogue One because
what about Solo? Solo's not in your top 3 or top 5?
No. Well, we said top 3.
We said top 3. We said top 3.
Top 3.
Top 3.
So yeah,
we can go on forever debating that one.
Yeah, the longer the list, the longer the debate. Yeah. You know what I mean? So that's how that always goes.
Yeah, mine is also. I think mine is A New Hope. A New Hope's always going to be where I fell in love with the Star Wars universe.
Well, yeah,
it's
of course.
Always going to be.
Yeah.
And I get it's a simpler story, and everything's a little simpler, but it's the classic hero's journey, and it's done in this fantasy science fiction world, far, far away, and it's always going to have that kind of stigma. And its simple story is simple enough that my young son, that was the first movie he was able to watch, and he actually digested and understood it, which is kind of cool.
Oh, of course.
My kids
Yeah. No, that is true because that's very old mythology type of story. It's very easy to tell, and it's
lightning
very
in
simple.
a bottle for George Lucas, man. Lightning in a bottle.
Yeah,
for sure.
He definitely did. He did,
and it's the foundation of everything else. It's the bottom line. So Empire's great because as a sequel, it's in a league of its own almost. Well,
yeah.
I don't know. Infinity War is pretty insane right now.
Hey, so Hector, let me ask you something. I know we're all of us are gamers here. I know you're a big Star Wars Battlefront guy. But if I was to kind of have, if I could get like some type of authorization from my wife to pull from my children's college fund, what would be the gaming system that I would get from Origin right now? Tell me what would be the bad Mac Daddy Hector approved kick-ass badass
the Mad
gaming
Max
rig.
The Mad Max of gaming
The Mad
rigs.
Max of gaming rigs.
Wow. Okay.
With the nitro.
Dude, you realize that some PCs you could go like over 10 G's, right?
Holy cow.
So yeah. I mean, that's a really loaded question.
Okay, I guess I'm about to touch a little.
He did say take out of the college fund.
Yeah. Okay, there you go.
Yeah. No, I mean that really
Holy
is.
smokes.
You are going to wipe out the college fund, both the kids.
I guess I am a little bit dated.
Yeah. And there we go.
I thought like 5 or 6 was
No, yeah, no, fire. It's awesome, but yeah, no, it's you could go pretty crazy. But no, I'll tell you, for a good gaming rig though, I mean, from Origin, you could get one. Or we can get affordable units. $1,500, $2,000. You could get a really affordable kick-ass unit. People
and laptop, right?
Or laptop.
Yep.
And what's funny is a lot of people ask me, "Hey, what's the best unit?" And my question is, what are you going to do with the system? Because really, that's the bottom line. How you can answer that question. It's like saying, "I need a car."
Yeah.
Well, what are you going to do with your car? Are you going to be picking up the kids at soccer practice?
Or mudding?
Or are you going to be just driving down
going at light speed?
Or you're just going down South Beach and you want the girls to pay attention? There's different types of cars, right?
Yeah.
Same thing with computers. Yeah. Same thing with computers.
Nice.
Cool.
Definitely check you guys out more. What's the website, by the way, Hector?
www.originpc.com.
Nice.
Origin PC.
All right. Well, listen, Hector, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. I definitely want you back.
Next time we'll talk about Solo instead of Last Jedi, right?
For sure. All right.
I get so emotionally upset.
Yeah, I know. I'm telling you.
Worked up.
So this is Diamond Dave on the mic, and I'm out of here.
This is Manny, the Comic Maniac.
And we're one level beyond.
One level beyond.